everybody. Laura BOONE here, and I love the Enneagram, and I'm so excited about today's show. We're going to be talking about Type 1 today, and I have gotten such great feedback on the network from you guys following all my shows about the numbers, and as you can tell, I have not gone in any particular numerical order with them, but I am building a library of all the 9 types, and I'm almost there. So I think I've got, Jesse, help me. I think I've got 9 left, 6 left,
And 7.
and 7.
Mm-hmm.
So 6, 7, and 9 are left. Today I'm doing 1, and I have all the other numbers already in the library, so on the network. So if you're a subscriber, you can go back and watch all those episodes anytime, 24 hours a day. So learn about your number. Learn about your number. Now, how do you figure out, I want to get this housekeeping out of the way. How do you figure out what your number is? Well, there are lots of different ways and lots of different tests, but I like the Enneagram Institute.com. And they have a test. Maybe Jesse can put it on the screen here for me so you guys can go to it online. They have a free test that's just several questions, and then they have a test that I think's about $12. That's about 100 questions. I think it's worth it to spend a little money and take the extensive test to really make sure your number is right. Sometimes it's really easy to know what your number is. Other times, numbers can start to resemble each other. So take the test and find out what your number is and get your loved ones to do this, because I think the Enneagram is one of the best tools for self-discovery, self-help, and also for relationships, to really help relationships work and to help understand people that you want to learn how to love better and you want to help them learn how to love you better. So the Enneagram personally has improved my life so much. That's why I'm doing these shows, because I really want to share this knowledge to everyone so that you can enjoy the benefits of the Enneagram. It is an amazing ancient system. I have shows on the network it's about the history of the Enneagram if you want to learn more about it there. So go back through my library, you guys, and dig up these shows. They're not hard to find, and they're really, really helpful if you want to know more context around today's show. But today I'm going to get into, again, Enneagram Type 1, and every number, as you know, has a nickname or set of nicknames, and the 1 is the perfectionist or the reformer, and those are both really the 2 main names for 1. So let's talk about, each number consists of basic fear. Like, one way to categorize it is basic fear, the basic desire, and the super ego message. And by the way, a lot of this information I'm teaching, it comes from different sources, but one of my favorite sources is this book called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. It's by Don Richard Riso and Russ Hudson. You can get it on Amazon.com. Jesse's saying, hold it up so everyone can see. It's just a really great basic book, and anybody who picks this up can start to get it without having to go into too much depth. But the Enneagram, there's a lot of knowledge, but this is sort of a really simple, abbreviated version. Okay, Type 1, the perfectionist or the reformer. The basic fear of 1 is of being bad, defective, evil, or corrupt. That's their fears. They're afraid. I'd even venture to say they're afraid to do things wrong. Okay, that to me is a real general way. They're afraid to do things wrong. The basic desire of a 1 is to be good, virtuous, in balance, and to have integrity. Or to be right. Or to do things right. I know you're starting to form the picture now. A super ego message. You are good or okay if you do what is right. And the super ego message for every number is really what people need to look at, because that is the lie that we tell ourselves as a number that really holds us back from growth and expansion and eventually just happiness and joy. So, the whole reason for going to all this effort, you guys, is to just make your life easier, happier, and to have more joy. Okay, So I always love with these numbers, sometimes it's easier to read quotes so you can sort of get the gist of what each number means. And what's really funny is I swear, if you're a 1, you will have said some of these things before. And if you're not a 1 and you know a 1, you'll be like, oh, yeah, my wife's a 1. She says that. Like, she says that all the time. So first, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. How often have we heard that? Well, a 1 invented that quote. I love this one. I know how things should be done. Okay, a 1, I don't know where they learned this, and I know sometimes we want to even make fun of them, like they know how it needs to be done. They're very confident about that. A lot of times they actually do know how it needs to be done. Here's one of my favorite. Right is right and wrong is wrong, and there are no exceptions. How about just right is right and wrong is wrong? There's a sensible way to handle everything. It's another quote. Here's a really great quote that this is a Laura quote that I believe 1s say all the time. This is my personal quote. Anyone that I know. You ready? It's the principle of the thing. Kind of the reason for everything. Whether they're being ugly or mean or crazy or whatever, they kind of use that. Or what if they're trying to make things better, right? Or trying to convince somebody to do something the right way, and it's good intention. It's the principle of the thing. Okay, so basically 1s, they are the people, I call them the standard bearers. They're the people that have this high integrity, and literally it's almost like they came out of the womb wanting things to be right, wanting things to be in the right place. I mean, that can exhibit itself in so many different areas. It can be just physically, everything has to be right. A lot of 1s want everything to be organized properly or cleaned properly. I mean, a 1 wants everything perfect, typically. Some 1s are more visual than others, okay? And I'll get to what that means. But if you're a 1 where this exhibits visually or with things, it could be an OCD. OCD is a big 1 affliction. A lot of times 1s have they're either OCD tendencies or they have full-on OCD. They also feel this way morally or about ideas or about religion or about science so in other words, they will put this right is right and wrong is wrong idea onto just about anything that you can think of. You could own an ice cream store, and you know what? The way you scoop ice cream, here's the right way to do it. That's the wrong way to scoop ice cream. The way I do it is the right way. And when you work at my store, you scoop ice cream this way. Okay, somebody who has a boss like that at the ice cream store, that boss is a 1. Okay? Again, morally, ideas. So, it's not just your local Baptist minister who is like, the Baptist religion is exactly how everything needs to be done. Here's the structure. Here are the rules. 1s love rules. 1s love rules and regulations. 1s love structure. They create structure where there is no structure. They apply rules where there actually aren't any rules. I have a friend who's a 1, and it cracks me up because we'll be driving along or out somewhere or whatever, and she'll say, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, well, why not? Because it's the rule. What rule? Where is that rule? I don't know what you're talking about. Of course, I'm a 4, so we're the polar opposite of, like, there are no rules for a 4. Where's the rule? I don't know. Is there a law? Is there a rule? Where have we read this? I don't know. I haven't read that anywhere. It drives them crazy that I'm trying. Yeah, I just know it's the right thing, Laura, is that you shouldn't do that. Okay. if you hear, you guys know if you're a one, you're laughing right now going, that's me. Okay, yep. And if you are with a one or know a one, you're like, yep, they say that kind of thing all the time. So they will create rules where there are no rules. They will create structure where there is no structure. They will organize things or reorganize things because they're not organized in the right way. I was talking about our friends, our Baptist ministers. I grew up in the South, and have I grown up and been taken care of by so many lovely people of that faith and other Christian faiths, especially where I'm from. But let me tell you, the dogmatic, the ones invented dogma. They invented, oh no, my way's the right way. When God gave the 10 Commandments, all the ones in the world rejoiced. They love commandments. They love rules. They love a structure. And they love to be the keepers of the structure. They love to let everybody know what the structure and the rules are. So if you sense a tone in my voice of irritation, it's not fair for me to have that tone of irritation because number one, you probably hear it because I'm a 4 and it literally goes against my grain in every way. But I will tell you this, and I'll literally will tear up talking about this, because I believe every number teaches us all something beautiful. Ones, so in the negative sense, in the disintegrated way, they are critical, they're judgmental, they're very dogmatic that they're right and whoever's different than them is wrong. Like, that's a disintegrated one. The integrated one, which I happen to know a few of those, and they're some of the lights of my life. They are about the principle of the thing, but at the highest level. In other words, they will sacrifice themselves. They will do anything to make sure that what is right is done. They don't need attention for it. They don't need anybody to know that they've sacrificed everything just for the principle of the thing. They will champion causes if they believe that the cause is worthy and that it's the right thing. These folks will give their lives to the cause because it's the right thing to do. Because, like we talked about, their basic desire is to be good, virtuous, in balance, and to have integrity. So who are these people? Let's think about this for a minute. Harvey Milk, probably a 1. Gandhi is a 1. Your community judge who's honest and has integrity is a 1. I think just the scales, the symbol of the scales, the woman with the blindfold, and what's equal and fair, and what's, the law is the law is the law. That's a 1 concept. Thank God, right, for that concept. It's one of the best inventions of humanity for civilization is structure, laws, rules, the rule of law. That's invented by that's 1 energy in the world. Religious zealots, a lot of those folks are 1s. Cult leaders can be 1s. The hashtag Me Too movement, let's talk about that for a minute. The hashtag Me Too movement, the best parts of that are it's 1 energy. It's about, you know what, I'm going to stick my neck out and take whatever problems come my way, or retribution, or whatever retribution comes my way. I'm going to stand up for others. I'm going to stand up because it's the right thing to do. There was this one interview, and it was this woman who worked at the Plaza Hotel, and it's a wonderful article in Time magazine if you haven't seen it, about the Me Too movement. And it was the person of the year was a group of women who stood up against harassment, and it's a wonderful piece. But there was this one woman, and I thought, she's got to be a 1. She was in a very precarious financial position. She was taking care of her daughter alone, didn't make a lot of money, and she said that the most important thing to her, such a one, was to teach her daughter values and to teach her daughter principles. And she said that when she had been sexually harassed and she was trying to consider whether to confront the harassers in this huge organization she works with or not, knowing, because she'd seen people before her be fired and lose and be buried because of it, should she do that or not? And she decided not to because she's the breadwinner. And then she couldn't sleep, and she said, that's not the right thing to do. Her basic fear is to, not have the highest integrity. And she said, the principle, I have to show my daughter principle and how to act out of principle and with integrity. I have to show her this. That is such a one. And she sacrificed and put herself in harm's way for her daughter and for other people. And ones, they are the people in the Greenpeace boat, in between the harpoon and the whale. They are the Stonewall riot. They're the people that go out in the front and say, I speak for a lot of people, and I'm not going to take this anymore. They're the union leaders. They're the two most, a lot of people always say the 8 is the hero. In fact, the nickname for the 8 is the hero, and 8s are heroes. 8s are heroes, but I would venture to say 1s are just as much the heroic type as an 8. Here's the difference between the two. There's a subtle difference. 8s definitely will sacrifice themselves for others, for the cause, but the 8 motivation, it's true and it's big-hearted, but it's because they believe that no one else is as strong as them, that they're stronger than most, therefore they have to take this battle on. They also have the ego, and I don't even mean this in a bad way, the ego to think that they actually could win, like 1 against a million. The 8 is that very fiery, do or die, like courageous. It's very courageous. The 1 is it's a different kind of hero. The 1 is, it doesn't even have to be loud and nobody has to see. It is truly for the principle of the thing. And if I don't stand for the principle of the thing, then who will? Like, I know what's right, therefore I have to be that. And if I, become invisible or I'm killed even, or I, disappear into oblivion because of it, then so be it. I don't need my name on something. I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and know that I did what was right. That is a 1. And that, to me, is some of the best parts of humanity, is what a 1 brings. And that's this, it's not just about me moment. In fact, it's not even about me. That there are ideals and ideas that are worth fighting for. The whole idea of fighting for your freedom, the whole idea of dying for your freedom, a large part of that, I believe, is 1 energy. It's about having a conviction that way of life, like whatever way of life you choose. I'm an American. I believe that freedom is the right way. But that conviction, that fighting for an ideal is 1 energy. So let's talk a little bit about how they can disintegrate. So the highest level of a 1 is someone who, no matter what, checks their ego at the door, checks their own human needs at the door, and does what is right. They're the people that stay late and get the job done properly, okay? They're the people that if they do a job or do something, they're going to do it perfectly the first time because they have a high standard. Nobody taught a 1 a standard. 1s come in with a high standard and then they try to make the standard higher. They're constantly trying to improve. So that's the best part of a 1. So the disintegrated 1 is, as you can imagine, it's that inner critic. Even the words, and those of you who watch Unscripted Way, Darshana, with her channelings, she talks a lot about judgment. And just saying something is right or saying something is wrong, most of the time has judgment in it. which is not good energy. It's negative. And it certainly doesn't help you pull people along with you. It pushes people away from you. So ones, as they disintegrate, they're the people that don't even hear how critical they are. Nothing's ever good enough for them. Parents, like an example of critical one energy. Parents who expect their child to be perfect. The mother, the daughter can't ever look exactly right. Or the child who's play sports and they're never quite good enough. They need to practice. They're never perfect enough for the parent. That's that critical imposing your standards constantly on others. Okay. A one could be, in a positive sense, could be they make great coaches, they make great judges, they make great teachers, they make great trainers, they make, anybody who is needing help setting goals. They're big goal setters and process, they create the process to get to the goal. But the negative side is just, they become so, their brains get on such a track of analyzing everything and making sure everything is at the highest standard, no matter what it is. I mean, it could be how the table's set. It could be, how a room is clean or not, or how an office is laid out, or whether a project's been completed perfectly or not. They can lose sight. The big pitfall is ones lose sight of the humanity around them. They lose sight of the humanity of the relationships that they're in because they impose ideals, standards, principles, things that aren't emotional, that aren't about imperfection and just love. They put ideals and perfectionism above love and relation. So it's really can be awful to be around people like that. And the arrogance that, there's an arrogance that ones can descend into where what they believe is right, and they will not consider or give anybody any room to think otherwise or to be otherwise, and then they condemn them, or they arrogantly look down upon people that don't agree with them. And at the end of the day, it really pushes people away. And a lot of ones that are disintegrated in this manner, their motivation is they want to be the best people they can be. They have such a good, beautiful motivation, but they can lose sight of the fact that they're lonely, only clinging to their ideals, and that they're pushing people away with their criticism and their judgment. Whenever I'm around a one that's disintegrated, the one thing, and if you are around a one that's disintegrated, the one way in, or the one way that helps me have more patience with the disintegrated one, is just understanding how lonely that person is, and how, I promise you, everyone is just as critical of themselves. They're, if not more critical of themselves. They do not hold everybody to a high standard, and they don't hold themselves to that same standard. Ones have integrity, right? It has to be consistent. So I promise you, a one is hardest on themselves. And any one that I've ever tried to get through to, one of the best ways to get through to a one that's disintegrated is to really look at them and appeal to that heart-centered loneliness and to that humanity, like reflect back to them their humanity, and reflect back to them how they must be lonely, or how they must be very hard on themselves. And then let a one know your impact, their impact. That's one of the best ways to get through to a one, because it appeals to, I promise you, most of the time they have no clue that they're having the kind of negative impact that they're having when they're disintegrated and being overly critical or constantly critical. So to really sit them down and say, will you listen to me right now? I want to talk about how you make me feel when you say things like that. In love, because they don't a lot of times see how they make other people feel. And they want to be wonderful people, so that appeals to their sense of, I want to be better than this, right? I even say that to ones. I use trick psychology, right? Don't you want to be better than this? The answer is yes. It's a rhetorical question. Of course they do, because they're ones. They want to be perfect, right? Another great way to love a one is to say, you know what? I love you just the way you are. With all your faults, with all your flaws, I love you just the way you are, and I always will. A one will always do this the minute you say something like that to them, because that's what they feel like they'll never have, is complete acceptance for just who they are. Let's talk about disintegration and integration. As you know, if you've studied the Enneagram at all, every number has two numbers that it disintegrates to or integrates to. They're called points, like the number points to another number. So the 2 points for one are 7 and 4. Now, typically the research or the writings have shown that a 1 integrates to 7 and disintegrates to 4. But the writing and the circles of Enneagram professionals now really talk about, and I believe this, they're really talking about how both points are resources for someone to become more whole and to expand and grow. So, and you can also disintegrate to both points. So I'm going to talk about it in that manner. So if you integrate towards a 7 as a 1, what does that mean? When ones lean towards some of the positive aspects of 7, which is, again, when you're disintegrated as a number, you look to these points, these other numbers, to go, okay, if I behave a little bit more like that, it can pull me up out of these unconscious behaviors that I just do all the time to protect myself or to run my life, and I'm not even aware of the negative impact they're having. So when a 1 is being so wrapped up in their ideals and being critical and being judgmental and everything has to be perfect, including myself, I have to be perfect, you have to be perfect, and they're in this thing, if they lean into 7, they're getting out of the ideal and the rigid adherence to an idea, and they are moving more into what instinctually they want to do or they're attracted to or they know. 7s are instinctual. 7s are about experience, just for the sake of experience. 7s are about feeling good and being emotional and feeling alive and the spontaneity of life and the excitement of life and the variety in life, right? 7s are completely non-judgmental. 7s are the ones that live large and want to try everything just to try it. Nothing's wrong to a 7 when they're at their best. Everything has its place and everything adds to this big, disco ball of facets, which is this world, right? So opposite to a 1, right? 1's like, that's frivolous. We need to stay on track and stick to our commandments, stick to our rules, stick to our structure. Too much of either thing is not good. But a 1, if they leaned more into having fun, trying things just for the sake of trying things, laughing, feeling good, checking into just feeling good and having fun, it's like medicine. So if you have a 1 that gets stuck in some disintegration or perfectionism, you need to take them to Six Flags. You need to take them on a spontaneous trip. You need to, make sure that they're playing sometimes. Get them out to play. Okay, and if you're a 1, when that person calls you and says, let's go on a trip this weekend and go have fun, say yes more often, right? So typically 4 is another point that 1 can either disintegrate towards or integrate towards. So how do you disintegrate if you're 1 to 4? So when 1s get really disintegrated and they are really overwhelmed by all the pressure they're putting on themselves to be perfect, and all the hypercriticism they're putting on those around them as well as themselves, and the pressure for a 1 that's actually a lot of it's internal just gets to be so much. They literally can have nervous breakdowns. 1s will have nervous breakdowns. They will have anxiety attacks. So that kind of pressure, they need relief valves, right? So a lot of times 1s will disintegrate to 4, and what does that mean? They retreat. They just kind of throw their hands up and they go away from all of it. They go into their cave And they do what fours do. They lick their wounds, right? When fours are disintegrated. Why me? And why is everybody, they get really emotional, quite frankly, in a very self-pitying way. Nobody cares about me anyway. Nobody cares that I know everything and that I know what's right. Nobody wants to be my friend. Nobody wants to participate. Nobody wants to get on board. It's all on me. It's a very myopic, self-pitying, again, it's kind of arrogant way to disintegrate towards four. Now, how they could integrate towards four is to, in a healthy way, is to get out of that principle and the everything has to be perfect and everything has to be such, and check in with how they feel. How do I really feel? Because a lot of times ones, they push their feelings down. They push what makes them feel good down. They push their needs down, and they just do what they think is the right thing to do. And their needs are secondary. Their emotional needs are secondary. Nurturing themselves comes, 10th on the list, right? So fours are the polar opposite of that. Fours think about themselves. They want to take care of themselves. They're constantly checking in with their own emotions. So ones could use a little bit of that four energy. So if you're a one or a one and they are getting overwhelmed and they're disintegrated, ask them, check, how are you feeling? Can you just stop for a second, slow down and check in? How are you feeling? What do you need right now? What do you need to feel better? Have you slept? Have you eaten? Are you lonely? Right? Those are all positive questions and energies that a four would bring to something. Fours teach us to take space for ourselves. Fours teach us to stand up for ourselves and ask for what we need. So a one could use a little bit of that four energy in that way. So in conclusion, I want to say, like I always do, thank you to ones for leaving things a little bit more organized and more buttoned up and more structurally sound than they found them. I want to thank ones for putting their own needs and selves aside and showing us how to really put others first. I want to thank ones for their heroic commitment to what is right. And when I say right, I don't mean that in a judgmental way. I mean putting their full body, heart, mind, soul into committing to what they believe is the best in humanity, and understanding that best in humanity is all of us. It's our civil rights, right? It's the common beauty in all people and the common rights of all people. Ones will sacrifice everything for that, and at their best, that's what we know and love about one. So I hope that helped you guys today, and I hope you go look at my other numbers, because all the shows are going to be here in my library, and we're going to talk about all 9 numbers with the Enneagram. So leave me comments. If you have any comments, if you are a one, if I left something out, or if you heard something that really rang true, it helps me in my work when I hear from you guys. So thank you so much for joining me again, and we will see you next time on the Real Ethereal Show. Bye, you guys. Thanks for watching.